John Nichols. I work as the business programming coordinator for the Emancipation Economic Development Council. It is a nonprofit organization that is housed in Third Ward and built for the preservation, protection, revitalization of Third Ward. Our goal is to drive economic advancement into the community from a inclusive and build from within capacity, such that we're able to offset the displacement that's happening in Third Ward due to development. And so while we love development and we love new things and we love building things and bringing resources into the community, we want to ensure that the people in the community that need said resources can stay in the community. And so one of the ways in which we do that is through business programming, and that is the small business training program that we host yearly, and then also workshops like these that's a part of a bigger piece. And to that end, I will introduce Katrina Johnson with the Emancipation Park Conservancy, who will tell you a little bit more about the Conservancy and this and how this workshop that you're in right now came to be.
Thank you, John, and hello, everybody. I want to thank you all for joining us for today's training. It is sponsored by Comcast NBC Universal Foundation. My name is Katrina Johnson. I am the Development Associate here at Emancipation Park Conservancy, located in the historic Third Ward. The Conservancy was formed to create a renewed cultural, learning, and recreational gathering place in the city of Houston. Our mission is to enhance Emancipation Park by preserving its integrity and enriching its heritage as a local, state, national, and international landmark. The Conservancy strives to work collaboratively with our community partners in order to provide educational, economic, empowering, and health and wellness content to our audience. And for that reason, we are so excited to be partnering with EEDC in the Tech Pivot series. Now, although the Emancipation Park's amenities are limited during the pandemic, we encourage you to visit our website for our virtual offerings at www.epconservancy.org and follow us on our social media platforms at EP Conservancy. We look forward to seeing you at the park when it reopens to its full capacity. Thank you so much again for joining us, and please enjoy the presentation.
Thank you so much, Katrina. We appreciate that. And as you all know, today we will be discussing copyrights and trademarks and patents with a former U.S. trademark attorney, Devon Hatchett. We're really excited to have her. And so I will be quiet now and let y'all hear the things that you have come to hear. Take it away, Devon.
All righty. So hello again, everybody. It is such an honor and a pleasure to be here. I am excited about this topic. As I mentioned before, this is something that I really believe strongly in terms of educating and helping people to really understand the value of what they create. And when they bring those creations into business form, you know, wanting people to really understand the value of that and how to protect it and leverage it. So with that, I'm going to start to share my screen. Okay, so just a little bit about me. Like we mentioned already, I'm a former U.S. Patent and Trademark Office trademarks examining attorney. I'm also a creative business owner myself, so I understand a lot of the challenges we face as business owners. And I'm on a mission to teach creative entrepreneurs how to harness and own the power and value of their brand assets to generate revenue streams. And so I have spoken at some of these places that you see under the spotlight section. I've spoken or written articles. So this is something I'm really interested in doing when it comes to trademarks and patents and copyrights. So let's keep it moving. Hold on, let me move this. There we go. So I got to do this disclaimer. I'm sure you guys have heard this in different forums before, but I have to do the disclaimer as an attorney. So I'm just going to read it Any education, data, tips, ideas, knowledge, or feedback delivered in this webinar are for informational purposes only, and they do not at any point constitute legal advice. Furthermore, please note that no attorney-client relationship is formed between the presenter and any person, persons, or entities by viewing or participating in this webinar. That legalese, I got to deliver it every time, just to keep everything clear and make sure that everybody understands that this is not legal advice, it's for information. If you want legal advice, I'd be happy to give it to you on it. We'll do a consultation call, but tonight it's about really educating you and getting you the knowledge that you need in your business. So this is actually part of this that I'm teaching tonight is actually part of a larger program that I created, a course that I created last year in the middle of a pandemic, but I felt it was necessary, so I created it. It's called Building Your Bankable Brand and Business, all those B's, I couldn't get it out. But this part is called Strategies to Build and Protect Your Brand and Biz, and that's part of that larger course. So we're just gonna dive right into it. So tips for brand building and protection. So I'm going to dive into this a little bit further down the line as we go and continue to delve into it. But you might be wondering, you know, why I'm bringing up brand building at this point. It's important when you are creating your business and creating your brand that you do intentionally focus on building that brand, because as I'll talk about later, that plays a role in how you are able to establish protection for your brand and business and leverage that brand and business. And when I give you some examples, it's gonna click for you, I promise. So with brand building, you want to first find your authentic brand voice. Second, you want to build your unique brand story and amplify that voice. And third, you want to strategically position your brand and create more brand awareness. And again, one of the reasons why it's really important to talk about this is because in our excitement and enthusiasm to create a business, to create a brand, we don't always necessarily contribute enough time and effort and energy and resources to building the brand. You know, we're just ready to open our brick and mortar doors or launch on the website, our website to sell our products and services. But you really do want to, as you are going along with your brand and business, really devote some time to building it. What do I want people to think and know about my brand and business? One of the quotes that I say to my clients all the time is a quote by a gentleman named Scott Cook, and it's, businesses are no longer what marketing agencies tell consumers they are. It's what consumers now tell consumers a business or brand is. So that's basically saying, you know, back in the Mad Men days, you have these big marketing agencies and they were creating these narratives for these businesses and putting those on commercials and jingles. And so even though those things still play a role, it's become more important what consumers say to other consumers about your business. And the cool thing about that is that you can actually help shape that if you are intentional about it. The way you conduct business, the customer experience on your website or in your store, all of those things are some things that you can start to build as part of your brand narrative. Here's a perfect example, it just popped in my head. How many times have you gone to Chick-fil-A and heard them say at the end of, I don't care what it is you say, you can go in there, order something, you can go in there and say, my car is on fire, whatever it is. At the end of whatever they're responding to you, they're going to say, my pleasure, my pleasure, my pleasure. That is part of the brand narrative that Chick-fil-A has built, because it's a nice way of saying, telling your customer and sending that subconscious message to your customer by saying, I'm here to serve you. I'm happy to serve you. I'm happy you're here. It's my pleasure to give you whatever it is you're looking for today. So that's part of your brand building. You want to think about what it is, what kind of messages you want to communicate to your consumer, to your clients, and then start building you know, your stories, your marketing, your narratives, your IG lives, whatever, around whatever that story is that you want to communicate to your clients. And then second, protect your brand assets. And that is comprised of creating a distinct brand and product name with longevity, owning all of your IP, and then leveraging what you own to create opportunities for brand extension. So part of that brand building is creating distinctiveness in your business. What is it that you can be known for? What product or service can you be known for? What is a unique identifier for what you do? Start thinking about those things and thinking about how to build that into your business. And you want to have names with longevity, and we'll touch on that in a minute when we start talking about the different types of IP. And then once you own it, then you can leverage it. And I'll talk about that later on as well. Your skills, abilities, and talents have immense value. That means you must take advantage of all the strategies available if you want to transform your business into real success. The reason I put this quote here is because far too often, far more frequently than I would like to see, we tend to underrate and undervalue our business. We tend to undervalue what we've created. Sometimes it's because it's something that's come easy to us. It's an idea that popped into my head, and oh, let me just try this, and people like it, and whatever. And we tend to kind of undervalue what we create. And when we do that, then that leads to us not protecting it. The less you value something, the less you think about protecting it, the less you think about investing in it and building it up. So the first thing I want us all to do is to have a mindset shift and really start to value your ideas. Trust your crazy ideas. It may seem crazy, but there have been people who created Pet Rock. That was crazy, but they made millions of dollars from that. The people who created, what are those little Snuggies? You remember the Snuggies with they made millions from that. And so trust your crazy ideas. Don't be afraid to put energy and effort and time behind whatever your idea is, and then value that. Time is a value, energy and effort are a value. So trust your ideas, put some energy behind it, and then put the appropriate value on it. So a profitable business is comprised of several brand assets. So you're probably saying, Devon, brand asset, what is that? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about it. So here's a brand asset primer. What's a brand asset anyway? Investopedia defines it this way. Brand equity is considered to be an intangible asset. The value of a brand is not a physical asset and is ultimately determined by the consumer's perception of the brand. Remember, I talked about that quote earlier. A brand's equity contributes to the overall valuation of the company's assets as a whole. So let's talk about the different types of brand assets. So examples of brand assets, and like it mentioned in the previous slide in the definition, they're intangible. So whereas your business might have inventory or products that are tangible assets, even if you have a building, that's an asset. Intangible assets, of course, are those that you can't immediately lay your hand on. So we have goodwill at the bottom, knowledge, then the brand itself, trademarks, patents, and copyrights aren't listed here, but that's one as well. So first, let's talk about goodwill and knowledge. So goodwill means like any client-vendor relationships that you've developed, the reputation that you've built with your business, how you deal with those client-vendor relationships, and what your vendors think about you and what your vendors tell other people about you. Any kind of exclusive contracts or business arrangements that you've created. If someone has gone through the time, effort, and trouble to entrust you with an exclusive contract, then that speaks volumes about how they feel about your business, how they feel about you as an individual, and what you're doing and how you conduct your business. And then, of course, we have knowledge, which is ideas, procedures, and methods training methodology. So if you have a specific way that you deliver your services, for example, if you have like a cleaning service, if you have like a specific way that you train the people who are your employees to go in and methodically clean, and that results in 99.5% of the allergens being removed from the house or whatever, those very specific things that are unique to your business that you've created, processes and ideas on how to deliver those goods and services, those are all things that, believe it or not, add value to your business. They add to the valuation overall of your business.
Devon, I'm going to interrupt for just a second, interject
Sure.
if you don't mind. Speaking to this piece, right? If you've completed the small business training program with me, and we got to start working on your financials and things like that, eventually after you've generated a certain amount of money, or you believe that you can make a certain amount of money, we would do some type of what we call evaluation of the company, right? And so we think about all these people who go out and they go get these hundreds of thousands, tens of millions of dollars in investment money and startup capital and all of those things. It's not just because they have a product. The majority of that value comes from these intangible assets. So like you showing up on time every time, you can get money for that. There is money for that. You building really good relationships and paying your vendors when you're supposed to, or you ensuring that you get paid properly for your business, right? Like that has value. So example, let's say you got two people that both have an apartment complex. Both of them got 4 people in their apartment complex, right? The 4 tenants in complex A pay their rent sporadically. You know you're gonna get it in a month. You know it's gonna be paid every month, but you don't know the day you're gonna get it, right? Building B, those 4 tenants, they pay their rent every single month on the same day, every single time, right? That relationship has more value than the relationships in company A. The reason that is important is because I am willing as an investor or as a consumer or anything else to spend money in company B a significant amount more than I would be in company A. What that looks like for your business is maintaining those things, because even when Devon gets over to the protection piece, right? If you don't have any of the consistency around those things, if one day you say my pleasure, the next day you say thank you, the day after that you say okay, cool, but then somebody tells you, oh no, I want to copyright, I want to trademark my pleasure. Well, how often are you really saying it? Is that really your brand? If I lined up 5 people, would they all say, your 5 customers, would they all say, yes, this is the exact way that these things are done, right? And so while it should give the actual defined terms and all of those things for it, I want to make sure that we don't miss this very important piece, because all of these things add value. That value is meant to be protected. But if we don't find value in those things, or we have not created value in those things, not only is it hard to get it protected, but then 2, once protected, how well can you maintain it if it's continuously changing, if you're not consistent with it, and all of those things. So brand identity is incredibly important, especially when developing this goodwill and knowledge piece, because there is a ton of money. I used to evaluate businesses all the time, and you would literally see a change in over $500,000, sometimes tens of millions of dollars, just based on goodwill. Just that goodwill, solely goodwill, not anything else, just what people perceive about the business. Now, I would make the assumption, and Devon, tell me if I'm incorrect, and I'll shut up and let you finish. But that those companies with that solid goodwill, with those reputations that are consistent, they find that the process of protecting their things are a bit easier than it is for those that aren't consistent, that may not have that solid brand identity. You go to the way you don't really know what that is. You get what I'm, you haven't really defined or differentiated yourself from the competition. So
absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. That was perfect. And I'm glad you're placing an emphasis on that, because again, one thing that people may not realize is that as a business, I can sue if you damage my goodwill. You don't have to burn down my building. You don't have to destroy my inventory. But if you mess with my goodwill, something that I've been building over time, there is a value to that, and I can sue you for that and win and get money, because you've damaged my goodwill, you've damaged my reputation, you've damaged the perception of my business in the minds of my consumers. So you hit the nail on the head, and I'm glad you're emphasizing that with people, because it really is important. It's really important. It's money. It's money. When you're talking about selling your business, you can sell your business separate and apart from your goodwill. I've seen it happen. I've been on the end of a deal and seen that happen. People can hold their goodwill back and then say, well, okay, so you want to buy my company, you can have the company minus the goodwill. And then, well, if you really want the goodwill, then you need to give me an extra $150,000 for the goodwill. It's real. It's serious business. It's money.
It's the reason that more people shop from Amazon than eBay.
And like, there you have it.
You do the same thing, and a lot of times you find cheaper, more deals, all of those things on eBay. But Amazon looks cleaner, it's a little prettier, it's a little more known, right? Like, and so we go that route because it's just easier in our face. That's value. That's a ton of money there.
Let me nerd out on that for a second, business nerd out. So if you've ever looked at the Amazon logo, there's a little smiley face there. That's a subconscious message. It's a pleasure to work with us. You want to work with us. It makes you happy to come and buy things here. So that little smiley face is building goodwill. It's what you're telling the consumer to perceive about your company. So that's a good example. So let's talk about the main meat of what you're wanting to hear about today, and that is intellectual property. So there are three main types of intellectual property. We have copyrights, we have trademarks, and we have patents. They are all three very different, and they have three very different functions. And you could potentially own all of these things within your business and sell them separately if you wanted to. There are lots of things that you can do with your intellectual property once you have it, and we're going to dive into that. But first, newsflash, you cannot protect an idea. I want to dispel that myth right from the jump, because a lot of people think that that's what intellectual property does, and that's not actually quite accurate. People think, oh, I have an idea, and so now I've got this idea, and nobody else can do this idea because I've had it. So let's talk about what the relationship between ideas and intellectual property really amounts to. So I call these are my devonctionary. I have my own dictionary of terms that I make up, that I use without shame. And so this is how I have defined the different types of intellectual property. So copyrights are for protecting the expression of your idea. So if I have the idea that I want to create a painting with Barack Obama sitting on top of a winged Pegasus with a top hat and holding a magic wand, that's my idea. I can't prevent somebody else from painting Barack Obama on a winged Pegasus with a top hat and a magic wand, but how I express my idea is how I'm able to be protected. So if whatever the elements are of the items that I put together in that piece of artwork, no one can come and copy that. So in my artwork, Barack might be, wearing a blue suit, and the Pegasus might be black, and the top hat might be gold, and the wand might be purple. So if someone tried to do all of those elements in an image, a similar image, then I would have the ability to be able to say you're infringing on my copyright. And that's why copyrights are for tangible things. So copyrights are for things like artwork, music, books, songwriting, things that you create. So, something that you create that can be put in a fixed form, that's what copyrights are for. So whatever my idea is, and I want to put it in a fixed, tangible form. If I have an idea about writing a song about how much I love Houston, my lyrics are what are protected and not the idea of it itself of writing a song about how much I love Houston. So is that making sense to people? I don't know, kind of check the chat. And if you have questions, feel free to ask, unmute yourself and ask if you need to. So I'm going to skip trademarks and go down to patents, and I'll come back to trademarks. So patents are for protecting the proprietary processes that constitute your idea. So if you are creating some sort of equipment or machinery, and it has a very unique process or way of working, that's what patents are for. If I have the idea that I want to create a machine that automatically mows your lawn and sweeps the street and waters the grass at the same time. And I'm sorry in advance for all these crazy out there examples, but I'm just going out the top of my head, and that's just how my brain works. But if I want to create a machine that mows the lawn, sweeps the street, and waters the grass at the same time, whatever those kind of mechanical processes that I use in order to make all those things to be able to happen at the same time, that's what's patentable. And I don't know, I'm probably dating myself here, but y'all remember the George Foreman grill? Remember, it was like patented chambers to catch the fat. So before he created that grill, there wasn't anything that had been created like that before. And that's another thing with patents. It has to be something that's novel or new, unique. And so before he created this grill with the slope and, the ridges and the chambers and it collects the fat and how it goes down, all of those things were patentable because it was something that was novel and new and hadn't been done before. And the process of how that fat was drained and collected was unique, new, and that mechanism was protectable. So next and finally, we're going to talk about trademarks.
Hey, Devon, before you go into trademarks, we have a question.
Okay.
Should be able to.
Okay, I have a couple. This is Nikita.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Now I see your hand raised. I didn't even see it. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just patiently waiting. So let me see if I can read my notes. I was writing real fast. So with the copyright, so like let's say you're doing like a t-shirt business or whatever, and somebody has a t-shirt design and you like it, you change the colors, change the font. Do they have a right to come for you if they haven't officially registered it under a copyright?
That's a good question. So I'm going to answer the second part first and then the other part next. So I'm going to give you the traditional lawyer answer, which is it depends. It depends. So you bring up an interesting point, and I'm glad you did because there's something else to share about copyrights. So the interesting thing about copyrights is that the moment that you create something, you fix it put it in a fixed and tangible form, it has common law copyright. So that means I have some rights already with it. So if I write out a song and my lyrics and I write out the sheet music or whatever, and I have it in fixed form, I have common law copyright. And so if somebody comes and picks up my sheet and I've written it and they pick it up and they look at it and then they copy it, I can still have rights to enforce them to not infringe on my copyright. The reason why you want to federally register your copyrights is because when you do that, that gives you the ability to get damages for infringement. you're able to prove damages. So I write out my lyrics and my music, my sheet music, and then I go to the copyright office and I trademark that. I'm sorry, I'm copyright that. And then somebody comes back and uses some of that music, or even if they are not actually looking at what I have copyrighted. So, you know, what a good example is that whole Robin Thicke and Pharrell thing with the Marvin Gaye. I don't know if y'all heard about that, but Blurred Lines was the song. And Marvin Gaye's estate came and sued Robin Thicke and Pharrell because there was a certain part of the melody that was deemed similar enough to a Marvin Gaye song that there was infringement. So once you register it, then you're able to get damages, and it's not very expensive to register stuff with the Copyright Office. And so it's worth it because not only can you get damages, but depending on how big of an infringement it is, you can get what's called treble damages, which means multiples of the damage. So let's say somebody infringed on my copyright and the courts awarded me $30,000. And then they said, well, because the infringement was so egregious, you can get treble damages. Well, then I could get another $90,000 on top of that because they've multiplied my $30,000 by 3. So, you know, if you have something, again, goes back to valuing what you create and you've registered it, it creates what's called constructive notice, which means the person who infringed against you, this was already registered. All they had to do was go into the copyright database and they would have seen what they were doing was going to infringe on somebody's copyright. So that's an excellent question. And it can get really tricky when it comes to clothing and designs. I literally am just now at the end of a client matter that I had where the client created an original design. It kind of blew up on social media, kind of went viral and blew up on social media. And the client came to me and was like, okay, I want to go ahead and try to protect this. When I tell you we filed the application, not even 2 weeks later, somebody came and tried to file for that same design. They stole it. They changed one word and they were trying to claim that as their own. And so it gets really tricky because when you're talking about intellectual property, and if I'm talking to lawyery, to legalese, you know, let me know, but you have to create what's called a bona fide derivative. So you have to change enough of the elements of something so that it does not remind you or remind the reasonable consumer of what it is that you got your inspiration from. That's my professional lawyerly answer. My real talk answer, and as a creator, is I really wish we would stop doing that. Come up with your own, you know, design, your own idea. Even if you have inspiration from somebody, put enough of your own original ideas into it so that it becomes something different. It's really rampant, and it's disheartening if I've gone through the process of paying somebody to create this design and I got all these elements and this is my vision and my idea, and then having someone to literally see the picture online and then taking a screenshot and then recreating it. You know, that's rough. It's really rough. And it's kind of what other folks do to Black folks all the time, take something they've created and leverage it and use it for their own, appropriate it for their own stuff. So when it comes to designs like that, especially for clothing, fine to have something as an inspiration, but add enough of your own originality and creativity to it to make it something really unique in your own. So that would be my answer for that.
Thank you so much.
Did you have another one, Nikita? Unmute yourself. There she is.
John said, no. So the common law copyright, is that also kind of called the poor man's copyright? Because I know when I wrote a book, they said, oh, well, just mail the manuscript to yourself, and that kind of time date stamps that you wrote it at this time if you ever needed to prove.
You can do that. I hate the term poor man's copyright. That's just my thing. I hate that.
Okay.
But that's essentially it. You have created ownership, so to speak, over what you've created and when it was created. So yeah, you can do that. You can mail it to yourself and that sort of thing. But really, if it's something of value, if you've written a book or a song or something, and I know expense is relative, but I think right now you can copyright for around $100, I think, possibly less, I think. So if it's something that you can make multiples of what the cost to register it is, then it's worth protecting.
That's the same with webinars as well. I know the titles and the content and all that. Would you take that down because I'm looking at it as like a Udemy or something like that. You have the PowerPoint slides, you kind of break down. That would be something as well.
Yes, you can what I would do is I would put the copyright symbol on every page, copyright Nikita Bowman, whatever year you created it, on every page, because again, that helps create that constructive notice that I'm telling you this is copyrighted material because I've listed it on every page. And so this belongs to me. I'm claiming ownership over it. So on your webinars, you've got, kind of training manuals, anything like that, you can put the copyright there and claim your ownership over it. Okay. All right. So were there any other questions?
We have one more, but I want you to go ahead and get through this, this slide. And then Brandon, I saw that you raised your hand, and then we'll, if you want to put your question in the chat, you can, and then maybe she'll see it and can answer as she's explaining. Otherwise, just give us a little bit. Let's kind of get through the meat of this, and then we'll come in and answer the questions.
Okay, so there's a reason that I saved trademarks for last, and that is because they are unique in that they are for protecting the brand and execution of your idea in commerce. And so that's important to note, because out of all three of the intellectual property types, trademarks are the only one that require you to be in commerce, in business, selling something, some product, service, whatever. I can create a piece of artwork, never sell it, hang it on my wall, have copyright protection in it and never sell it, it's no problem. I can create an invention and never decide to sell it. I can put it in my attic and still have patent protection on it. But if I trademark something, I must be using it in commerce, in business, actively using it. It goes back to what John was saying with your brand, your consistency, your brand consistency. Am I using this? And to that end, when I am consulting with my clients, I take them through the paces. What are we doing here? What are you trying to do? Is this just something that you're wanting to do on the side for a while and make some money and then you're going to move on to something else? Or is it something that you're wanting to actually build and grow and leverage and possibly create a generational wealth or generational legacy of entrepreneurship for your kids or your family or friends or whatever? Because it's important to have an idea of that when you're starting to get a trademark. How do I want to use this? How am I going to use this in terms of business? So let's go to some more about that. So, you know the saying, what you don't know can't hurt you. Well, what you don't own can hurt you. Let me tell y'all a quick story about another client I have tons of client stories. That's just how it is. I've been practicing trademark law for over 10 years now, so I have a ton of stories. But I had a client once who had a kind of a bath and body business, like, lotions and soaps and bubble baths and all these things. And she had the cutest name for the company. And she was in business for 3 years. And one day she received a cease and desist letter for the name of her company. She had not trademarked it. And the ultimate slap on the face was she recognized who it was coming from because it was from one of her customers. Somebody who had been buying things from her business for a while, decided they wanted to go into that line of business, decided they liked her name. She hadn't trademarked it, so they did. Then they sent her a cease and desist, and that forced her to have to rebrand. Now, she could have fought it, but let me tell you, defending a case is a lot more expensive than it is to just trademark it and own it from the beginning. Trying to get it back and prove ownership over it is so much more expensive than just going ahead and trademarking it. Had she trademarked it, she wouldn't have had this problem. So what ended up happening was it was just less expensive for her to rebrand. But when you rebrand like that, you lose that goodwill, that brand recognition, all those things that we were kind of talking about earlier. She lost all that and had to start over from scratch. So it really can hurt you when you don't own your brand assets. And I'm going to talk a little bit later on about how to own your brand assets, different ways that you can do that. So when it comes to your business, you cannot fully control what you do not own. So think about that, when you're talking about what you want to do with your business. If you don't own it, you can't fully control it. If I don't own my copyright for my song, then I can't fully control what happens to it. I have to jump through a lot of hoops and prove it's mine and keep you from using it. And I got to pay an attorney to send you a cease and desist and negotiate and all of that. It's just like, go ahead and own it, and then you can do whatever you want to with it from there. So let's talk about how to own your IP. So of course we talked about, we'll start in the middle with Biz Identity. So your business name, your logo, your tagline, those are all things that you can register under your trademark. So your business name, your logo, and then if you have like a slogan or a tagline, those are all ways that you can own the trademark portion of your intellectual property. Since we're talking about business, that's why I'm focusing specifically on trademarks. But then it's important to realize that you need to own your real estate. So do you own your URL addresses? Do you own the name on your social media accounts? One of the things that I talk to my clients about when they're getting their URL addresses is to also buy the little variants. So if I want to, the name of my business is Devon's Donut Shop, then I'm going to buy the URL for Devon's Donut Shop, but then I'm also going to buy Devon's Donuts. Because what you want to think about when you're getting those URLs is, how might my ideal client or consumer look for me? How might they type in Google to find me? So I would get Devon's Donut Shop, Devon's Donuts, and have one of those point to the other. So just buy it. It's less than $20 to buy a URL and have it point to your main one, and then you have ownership over it, as opposed to somebody else who might want to buy Devon's Donuts and have my clients confused and writing bad Yelp reviews because they went to Devon's Donuts for donuts instead of Devon's Donut Shop, and now they're mad. So again, that goes back to what we were talking about with controlling, having control and ownership over your brand and your business. And then lastly, we want to talk about brand positioning. We talked about that a little bit. Know what your brand story is, and then use that brand story to create a unique association to your products and services, so that when people hear a certain phrase or hear a certain song or whatever, they automatically think about your business. And here's some good examples that are easily recognizable. Oh, before we go there. So trademarks and branding are peas in a pod. That's one of the things that I preach over and over and over and over and over again to my clients. The exact phrase that I use that they roll their eyes at when I say it, because I say it so often, is that trademarks and branding are inextricably intertwined. So owning your brand asset is the way that you establish the ability to register your trademark, and trademarking is then the way to successfully maintain your brand. So trademarks and branding are inextricably intertwined. The purpose of trademarks are to be source identifiers for goods and services. The goal is to ensure the consumer is getting the exact product and service they desire exactly from the source that they intend to, without confusing it with other brands. The stronger your brand positioning is, the stronger the impression will be in the mind of the consumer client. The stronger the impression is, the quicker your brand and business will become more widely recognizable in association with your goods and services. Now watch this. The more widely recognizable your brand is in association with your goods and services, the stronger your trademark protection becomes. The stronger your trademark protection is, the more you can expand your brand. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. We know who all of these brands are. Even if that bottle on the left did not have any words on it, just had that red band and that bottle shape, you would automatically think of Coca-Cola, because they have made it a point to, they've created that unique font with Coca-Cola. They use red regularly, that bottle shape. All of those are brand identifiers with Coca-Cola. And so that builds the strength of their trademark, because the broader the perception is in the mind of the consumer, then the easier it is for a brand or business to say you're infringing, because everything I do makes people think about my brand. McDonald's is a prime example of that. You can't register Mac anything. I don't care if your name is, is McDonald's. You can't register McDonald's for anything. If you tried, McDonald's would come back and say, our brand is so globally recognizable that because we've used McFlurry, Mac Rib, we've used Mac in connection with identification of our goods, so much so and so regularly and so consistently that Mac anything, you think of McDonald's. You see those golden arches, you think of McDonald's. And then same thing with Nike. Nike's not anywhere on this shoe, but you see the swoosh. So you know that it's Nike. If somebody tries to have something close to that, Nike's going to come back and say, you are damaging our trademark because people are confusing your product with ours. So that's what I'm talking about when I talk about how branding and trademarks are intertwined. The more you build your brand story and position your brand story in the minds of the consumers, the stronger your protection will be. It'll get to the point where, the Patent and Trademark Office will do some of your bidding for you, so to speak, because they'll just flat out refuse an application that they think is confusing. Okay, so why owning your trade, and we're almost at the end, why owning your trademarks IP is seriously securing the bag. Don't let short-term coins make you miss out on long-term bags. I'm going to talk about 2 examples of that, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So Beyonce, Coachella, and Homecoming. Everybody knows by now the media marketing viral sensation that was Homecoming. But one of the things that people may not know is how Coachella works. So normally what happens with Coachella is an artist will sign an agreement to perform at Coachella, and then Coachella owns, the performance, the video rights to the performance. What Beyonce did, which was genius, was she negotiated with Coachella and said, okay, you want to pay me X amount of dollars to perform. Pay me, let's say that the figure was $1 million. She said, instead of paying me $1 million to perform, just pay me $250,000. I'll pay for all of my production stuff. You just pay me my performance fee of $250,000 instead of $1 million. But what I want in exchange for that is the rights, the video rights and ownership of the recording. What she then did was she created this whole production. She now owns the rights to this video. She was able to take this video and create something from it and then sell it herself, making infinitely more than she would have with that $1 million performance fee. That's where ownership of your stuff comes into play. That's how you sacrifice short-term coins for long-term bags. You have that vision and you think about, what can I own? Because once I own it, I can do whatever I want to with it. So it was a brilliant business strategy for her. And whether you love her music, hate her music, like her, love her, hate her, whatever, she's a really, really smart businesswoman. And I'm actually thinking about doing something where I kind of talk about the different things that she's done on a business level so that other people can emulate that as well. The other example I want to give is Virgil, Abloh, and Off-White. And I'm not sure if too many people are familiar with the Off-White fashion brand. It's kind of a cult status brand. If you saw some of the pieces, you might recognize it. There was like a belt at one time. I think it was like a caution belt or something, whatever it was. It's kind of like a cult status fashion house. So here's where Virgil Abloh was genius, and Virgil Abloh is Black as well. Here's what he did. So he partnered with a fashion house in Milan. The fashion house in Milan approached him about creating Off-White. So they created a 50-50 partnership for Off-White, where, you know, we share 50% of the costs and operations, 50% of the profits. But what Virgil did that was genius was he trademarked the name Off-White, then he licensed it back to the fashion house. So that's money that he's just getting. He didn't have to do anything for it. If he decided today, I don't want to do this deal with you all anymore, and I'm not going to license it to you anymore, he doesn't have to. He still owns it. So not only is he getting 50% of the profits from what they sell, but he's also getting that annual licensing fee. And I promise you, it is a healthy number. And all he did was trademark it. And he's making, you know, way more money from the licensing deal than he paid for trademarking that. So that's pretty much it, you guys. I know I've talked your ears off. I hope I've given you a lot of good information, a lot to think about, some knowledge for you to kind of really grasp and understand and start thinking about how it applies to your business, how you can strengthen your brand and business, how you can protect your brand and business. And with those last couple of examples I just gave you, how you can leverage what you own to generate revenue in your business. So I see there were a couple of questions, I think, in the chat.
Yes. So really quick before we get into questions, I just want to throw this disclaimer out there for two things. One, because we are recording this, so this recording will be available for other people to watch. And then, and to that end, when you do ask questions, try to make them as general as possible. Devon is not here to give legal advice to any of our individual businesses. If she were, I would have took all of the questions at the beginning. So I wouldn't have to. But definitely ask your questions, but just know that if you are asking a very specific question to your business, or like this hypothetical, what if my friend did X, Y, and Z, and those types of things, she probably either won't answer that or can't give you, it's gonna still give some type of general piece. So if you have like questions like that, then definitely reach out to her and we'll make sure that her information is available for you. But just generic questions about the information that you understood, you heard, or wanting to understand more about it. And I think all of the questions that are in the chat were you know, generic, good questions. They can be specific but again, just not specific to your business. You want to provide information that will help everybody on the call. Devon, I think we lost her for a second. She may be hopping back on. Okay, so while we wait on Devon, I think, yeah, I don't see her either. Okay, so while we wait on her to come back, if you all have any other questions or any of those things, please drop them in the chat. We're at the 1 hour mark, so I want to get questions in, and then I also want to make sure I go over these apps for you. So while we wait on Devon to come back, there she goes. Not yet. You're still connecting. Oh, wait, hang on 1 second. There you go. Try now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that. I think my computer just said I'm done for the day.
No problem. Are you moved to your phone? You want me to read the questions for you?
Yes, I'm on my phone now. Just moved right to my phone.
So I'll read the questions that are in the chat. The first is, if I haven't copywritten a design, which is the designs for t-shirts, but someone else attempts to use and or copyright a design, are the original files good enough to secure my brand's rights?
It depends. You can potentially use the date of creation of the original files as a reason to send a cease and desist, possibly. That could, that's an option. You could say, okay, well, I created this design on this date, and you are infringing, and I'm sending you a cease and desist, and you're going to really be at the mercy of whether or not the person decides to listen to your cease and desist or not. But you can definitely try. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people are stubborn. Sometimes people are like, okay, I know I'm wrong for this, so let me just stop. But it just kind of depends. It's a dice roll.
Devon, I have a follow-up question to that piece.
Okay.
Which is, can we sue someone for copyright infringement if we have not registered our intellectual property, but we can prove that we have it, we've been using it since before the other person started using it, right? So not just we don't want to get them to stop, but if they choose not to stop, then do we have any space for legal action if we've not legally protected it?
You can definitely sue them. You can definitely sue them and get them to stop, get an injunction, against them using it. The problem is going to be, it's going to be very hard to prove damages, because the person can just be like, I didn't know, because you did not have constructive notice with it being in the registry, the copyright registry. It's a little different with trademarks, because again, it's specifically for business. If you put like a little TM next to something that you intend to trademark, and you have that like in your social media profile or on your website or something, that indicates to people, that's constructive notice that you're intending to use this as a trademark. But there's no mechanism for that for patents or copyrights. Trademarks are the only type of intellectual property that you can do that with. Okay. So you can sue them, but you be hard pressed to get any damages from it. Right. And it's kind of like, it's good that you can stop them from using it and have the injunction, but you're not really made whole, because if somebody, say for instance, the t-shirts, if somebody has sold $50,000 worth of your design, you can't recoup that. Whereas if you filed the copyright, you could recoup that and potentially then some. Gotcha.
Okay. So you can sue to get them to stop. Mm-hmm. To sue to get money from them, is gonna be the hard piece.
Exactly.
Awesome, awesome. And then we have a question that came after that, which was, is there a charge to check databases for constructive notice?
So you can go to databases you can go to a patent database to check. The question will be, will you really understand what you're looking at? Copyrights will be easier to understand, but for that, you need to know what you're looking for in order to do a proper search. And then for trademarks, there is a database, a uspto.gov database that you can go to and search to see if what you are wanting to register has already been taken. Now, I want to caution people about that, because just because what you're trying to register is not there does not mean that you're safe to register it. And that's a good point to bring up right now. The standard that the Patent and Trademark Office uses when they're doing an analysis on whether or not something should be registerable is called likelihood of confusion. And what that means is, the trademark examining attorney is going to look at, one application, at your application, and compare it to something that's already registered and say, how likely is it that in the mind of the average reasonable consumer, they might be confused? So it doesn't have to be exact in order for it to be a source of confusion. It just needs to be relatively similar, or in the mind of the examining attorney, relatively similar enough that it might be confusing. You would be surprised what they think can be similar enough to be confusing. So you can go and look and see if exactly what you're looking for is there, but there are ways that the trademark examining attorney is trained to search that you will not know that they're using in order to make their analysis, to complete their analysis. So, like I said, if you go and you look and exactly what you want is not there, that's a good start, but you're not safe.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Hire attorney.
Say that again.
Said hire an attorney.
Hire an attorney. I mean,
Hatchet maybe. Sounds good.
Hire an attorney is always good. I know people talk about LegalZoom, and I won't bash LegalZoom, but what I will say about LegalZoom is that LegalZoom, unlike a regular attorney that you would hire, LegalZoom is not there to be your advocate. They're not there to give you strategy. If I go to LegalZoom and I say that I want to register Devon's Donut Shop, they gonna go in and try to register Devon's Donut Shop. They're not going to do an intensive due diligence search to see whether there might be a likelihood of confusion or if there are any conflicts. They're not going to advise me about that. They're not going to give me any strategy for how to overcome that. They're not going to do all of those things that an attorney would do for you, somebody who specializes in trademarks would do for you. And I'm really particular about the kinds of clients that I work with, because again, when I'm working with someone, I'm going to get all into the person's business. Their business is business. I'm going to get your personal business, I don't care so much about, but your business is business. I'm going to get involved with that, because that's all part of how I work and try to be strategic with registration. There are international classes with trademarks. There are 45 of them, and they're called international classes. And what they are is essentially groups of products and services. So the first 25 out of the 45 are goods, classifications for goods. And then the other 20 are for services. So like class 3 might be, chemical solvents. And then class 25 is clothing. So you have to categorize your products within those 25 classes, or your services within the other 20 classes. And that is also used as part of the analysis, because here's a great example that I use all the time. This is why Delta Airlines and Delta Faucets are able to coexist, because Delta Airlines is providing a service, Delta Faucets is providing a product. No reasonable consumer would ever think that Delta Faucets is flying airplanes and that Delta Airlines is selling bathroom faucets. So those two brands, even though they're both named Delta, in the analysis of that, there is no danger of likelihood of confusion in the consumer's mind. So they're able to coexist. So, all of that is important when you're talking about strategically registering your trademark. What classes am I selecting? Am I selecting the right classes? Because you have to submit what's called a specimen. A specimen shows that proves that you are using what you applied for in connection with the goods and or services that you put on your application, that you're actively using it. And they want that because, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So that means if I go fill out an application and say I want to trademark the EEDC logo and these mugs that we make that we've created with the EEDC stuff, then I have to show something that shows that mug with that image and all of those things on it.
And that you're selling it.
And that I'm selling it. Okay.
Yes. And so, you can get tripped up there because you can get tripped up there because they're all, let me put it this way. There are so many statutes and laws that surround trademark law because it is pertaining to money. I had to spend 13 weeks in training for the Patent and Trademark Office before I could even touch my first live application. So I had to be trained for 13 weeks on all of those things because I call it deceptively simple. You can go and you can do it yourself and, there's a chance that you might be successful. But it's so deceptively simple that people get easily tripped up. I get a lot of people who've tried to file something themselves, and then they get a response from the Patent and Trademark Office that says something's wrong, you need to fix it, and then they have to come to me anyway to fix it. So all of those things are components of analyzing whether or not your trademark is going to be viable, and a good trademark attorney will talk to you about that. They will coach you through that, talk to you about that, create strategy for you to be able to register, because ultimately my goal is to get you registered. And so if there are any issues that we might potentially have with confusion, I want to talk about it beforehand, before we go through the registration process. Gotcha. Let's figure out if we can fix it, and then register, because that's what I want. I want you to register at the end.
Awesome. So we have to wrap up. We still have one more portion of the workshop, but I do want, if you could do, I'll send you, I'll put in the chat and then provide to everybody your contact information so that they be able to contact you.
Okay.
And set up consultations and get further information and all of those things. As we wrap up in like maybe a minute and a half or so, if you have like the top things, whether that's one thing, 3 things, 5 things, 10, that business owners need to know with regard to intellectual property, protecting it, creating it, whatever those things are, like just in that wheelhouse, what would those top things be?
Dedicate time, effort, and energy to building your brand story. 2, your brand story is integral with creating protection for your trademark. 3, value what you're building and then protect it. And then 4, be open to how you, once you protect it and own it, how you can leverage that and create additional streams of revenue. Again, once you own it, you can do whatever you want to with it. You can license it, you can sell it, you can do whatever you want to with it. And so those would be the top things. Build your brand story intentionally, use that to create distinctiveness with your brand and increase your trademarkability, trademark it, and then leverage it.
Gotcha. So we got to go do the work first, sell the products, create the things before we go get protections for them.
You need to, so, and I'm sorry, let me just clarify this. So there are two types of applications you can file. One is a 1A, which means it's in use, and one is a 1B, which is intent to use. So you can, if I have an idea to do my business, but I haven't opened it yet, I can file a 1B application, but there is a timeline in which I must finally open and show my proof of use, show my specimen. So I can go ahead and file it. And then once they go through the process and say, okay, Devon's Donuts looks great. Now you need to show us proof of you using it. Then I have to come back with that. So there's a timeline on it, but you can definitely do it.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. Again, we'll make sure that everyone on the call has access to your information so they can reach out and get more info for you. And we really appreciate you all. Y'all don't jump off just yet. So we've talked about all of these products and these goods and services and all of those things, and the importance of those things and how we use them for trademarking. So what I want to show you is a few apps that you can use to create your own mock-ups of things. So when you do need to go sell it and you do need to provide that specimen, this is what this looks like. This is what we're selling. All of those things, in addition to graphics, intros, and all of those things. Some of you I know personally, so you've seen some of the things that I've created. It's very rare that I hire somebody because most things are easy to create at home. So unless it's incredibly complicated, I'll typically do it myself. So I want to share a couple of things with you really quickly and walk through some of the apps that I use for creating things. So I'm going to start with the most simple one, which you all have probably seen or used before, which is Canva, right? So really simple. I'm going to go through, just kind of scroll quickly through some designs that I've created. I created this whole magazine cover using Canva, right? Like, things like that. And I'll show you how to create some of these things. And not that maybe you're not doing a magazine cover, but whether that's a graduation invitation, whether that's a sale flyer, a banner for a website, t-shirt designs, calendars, all of these things you see here are things that I've created using Canva. So I'm gonna go get out of that so you don't see all these random things I've been making and working on. But I will show you like really quickly some things that you can do. So if you need to do a PowerPoint presentation, or say you want to do an Instagram post or a logo or any of those things, the templates are already there for you. And there's some really cool features that Canva is continuing to add. It's a really great drag and drop tool. So let's say we wanted to do a flyer for the Tech Pivot series, right? So I just simply went to Canva. This is the home screen. I go over to flyer. Now this is all free. It's completely free. You don't have to spend a penny for it. And they have a ton of images and graphics and things like that you can use that are free, right? So let's say you wanted to do a step-by-step flyer, right? Nikita, you are a mental health therapist, you're a counselor. So let's say you're saying, hey, look, so I have this process for dealing with anxiety, and I want to create a graphic around it. You don't have to start with a blank page. Boom, I just took this COVID-19 flyer, and all I'm going to do is change this picture here, and I'll change this picture here. I have my 1, 2, 3 here. So I can come in, double click here, and I can say, this is now going to be 5 tips to relieve anxiety. Done, right? If I want to make that bigger, I just simply stretch it out and move it around. If I want to add color to it, I can do that. Canva does this cool thing where any colors that you currently have in your document, it'll pull all of those colors for you. And if you add an image to the document, it'll pull all of the colors down there. So let's say I want to put a person on there. Boom, I just dropped this guy here. You'll see him, he's in the background of things. I want to bring him to the front. So I go to position and say, hey, bring him to the front, right? So maybe I want him to look like he's calling his doctor or something like that, but I don't want the background in it, right? So I'm gonna go click over to effects. Canva has this really dope thing where you can just click a button and it will automatically remove the background for you. So you don't have to do any of that work. You don't have to go Photoshop. You don't have to go pay somebody $100 to cut you out of a photo. Canva does it for you. I'm in another part of my room. My Wi-Fi is over there, so it might take a little second because Zoom is running as well. But it will take the background out for you. Boom, there you go. So I got my guy here. Maybe I don't want this person there. I want to delete them, so I click on them and delete. And now I have my guy sitting here. So remember we talked about the colors. If I go to colors now, like I see some of those colors now in this space, right? So Canva will find those colors for you and make it easier for you to choose the right color so that you have some of that consistency and things like that. Another cool thing that you can do is you can actually animate most of the things that come in. So let's say I want to turn this into a video and I want this guy's picture to zoom in, right? So, or maybe I want him to fade in. I can click on that and he'll fade in, right? So all of these that you see here are free. And then if it costs money, you'll see the little crown that's right there, which says, hey, it's a subscription piece. One of the reasons that I love Canva is you can literally create anything you want to create, and the templates are already there for you. I think Brandon just mentioned you absolutely can do it all from your phone. Canva used to suck on your phone. Like, it was terrible, but it is a great tool. I've literally created almost every graphic you can think of from Canva, from flyers to invitations to what have you. And if you're not really certain, like I said, you can always go to some of these templates that are already there, and you can create them yourself. And there are tons of them. All right. So if you want to create a story for Instagram, if you want to create a menu, you want to do an invitation, a t-shirt design, if you want to do videos, photo collages, newsletters, everything is there. You click a template and upload your information and upload your data into it, right? So that's one piece that's been incredibly helpful for me. The other thing I'm going to show you now is the piece de resistance. I think that's what you call it. So this is a site called placeit.net. It used to be called Envato, but then it used to be called Placeit, and Envato was its own thing, and then they brought them both together. So Envato was and it still is a place where you can go get a whole flyer with all of the layers, all of the images, everything that's in there. So if you're familiar with Photoshop and images, the way things happen is we go back to something like this Canva design here, just so you can understand the Placeit model more. Well, not this one, wait, that's the one that I created this morning. Let's do this menu here. So there are layers on layers on layers. So things are just laid on top of other things, which are laid on top of other things. And so we call them all layers. So if we added this one here, right? So you see this person, this image right here, that's one layer, but then this is put on top of that, and then this text is put on top of that. And each one of these are different text boxes, right? The same here, right? So these are all things that are grouped together, but these are individual pieces. Does that make sense? So all of these are just layers that stack on top of each other. Now, the reason that's important is because when you go to a place like Place It, what you want to do is be able to take your brand and put it on things, right? So when Devon spoke about being able to show that you're using your imagery or whatever it is, your intellectual property that you want to trademark, very specific to images and things like that, then you want to be able to create something so that you can send that, because you're not going to be mailing a mug or mailing a t-shirt to the United States Patent Attorney Office. You're going to be submitting a design that shows what you're doing. Now, this website is called placeit.net. First is Canva, C-A-N-V-A. I'll type that into the chat. And then the other is placeit.net. So we have Canva and we have Placeit, right? So what I love about this is you can literally create a mock-up of anything you want, right? So let's say I wanted to make a beanie hat, right? So we'll click on that, and now all of these are images that I can put my logo on. I can change the color of the beanie. I can move where my logo is going to be. So let's take this brother here. We're gonna click on him. Now I'll show you some really cool stuff that you can do. I make every single mock-up that I have, I've made them using Placeit. It costs $14.99 a month, and you have unlimited access to all of these things. Placeit probably has at least 10,000 mock-up pieces that you literally just throw your logo on, right? So there's this guy right here. Let's say I want to change the color of the beanie, right? So now I've just changed that beanie orange. If I want to change it blue, I've now changed it blue. So these little lines that you see, that's just the way that Placeit is protecting their pieces. So once you pay for the subscription, then you'll be able to take that off, or you'll be able to just have the image yourself. Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna grab an image and drop it in there for you, and you can see how they work. Let's see, give me just a second. Okay, this is perfect. All right, so let me go back here. Awesome. All right, so let's say we click the insert image. We'll go to my downloads, and let's say I want to put this red cup as my logo, right? So boom, there's my logo. I can increase the size and say I only want to do a portion of the cup as the whole image that's on there. If I want to fit the entire image in there, I can do that, right? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click the crop button, and boom. So now you see how that cup is going to fit on that hat, right? If I want to resize that and say, you know, I don't want it that big, I want it to fit a certain small portion, then I can make that smaller, crop it, and now I have it, right? So, and it's literally that simple. Now you just go download the item, right? And it's gonna say, hey, look, so do you want to buy this for $8, or do you want to pay $14.95 a month and get complete access and unlimited ones, right? So you have those simple things. Now, what I love the most though is these video makers. You can make t-shirt videos. You can make intro videos. I'm going to show you one really quickly, and then we'll move to the next thing. But so these are all intro videos. They're already made. You literally only have to upload your logo and type in some words. So let's say we wanted to go with this video, this logo, this intro maker. It's already done for us. Right, we're here. It's going to tell us what text, where we type in our text. So let's say Emancipation Park. Boom. And then we'd be able to upload whatever imagery we want. So let's grab this photo from the Emancipation dedication. Boom. So that's there. Did that. We're going to crop that. That's set. And so now they have music over here. I can pick whatever song I want. They've already paid for the license fees and all of those things for you. So you don't have to worry about any of those things. And so now I can increase the size of this and make this fill up the entire space. But it's designed for it to be a logo. So ideally it would be like the EDC logo or whatever your business logo is and what have you. And then you can play it. It's going to take a second to prepare it all. And here's the cool thing about this, while this is loading, you can actually bring in several different, so when we were on that first page, had all of those different videos, you can go add more videos to this. So if you wanted to do an extended video, but you saw some pieces from one video you liked and some pieces from the other video you like, you can actually go grab all of those and put them together, and it will create one seamless video for you with whatever data, whatever information you want to have there. So not the prettiest, but we were just playing with it, right? So, but you get the gist of it, right? And so the last app I'm going to tell you about, so Placeit is great. I would use it for everything. Even if you want to do, and I'll run this by you real quick, just so that you all can see. They do have the Instagram stories. They're all set. They run the same way. What I do want to show you is these videos that they have for people. If you want to have a video of somebody walking down the street wearing your t-shirt, like, you can create that. And that shirt doesn't have to be white. That shirt can be blue, purple, orange, green, with whatever logo, whatever piece you have that you want to put on it, which is great in the way that you create your brand identity and things like that, stuff that we can go get trademarked, copywritten. The last thing that I'm going to show you all is an app called Quick. You can only use it from your phone. It was initially made for GoPro, and it's called Quick. I'm going to type it into the chat. It's spelled, there we go. It's spelled Q-U-I-K, and it's an app from GoPro. Now, the reason GoPro created this was because people had all the GoPros and they were doing all of the things, and they wanted to find ways for people to be able to create videos and things like that. So the wonderful thing about that, so you can go download it from the App Store, you can go get it on Google Play, but you literally go into your phone, you click on any videos that you want, any pictures that you want. GoPro will automatically highlight the different ones for you. They will sync them to the sound of music. You can upload your own music. You can change the timing of things. And again, this is all free, all free. You don't have to pay for any of this, right? I'm going to give you a couple examples of some things that I've done with GoPro. So this was just a simple. So you have something like that. We did this video.
me to start my very own empire. I'm Ginger Mathis, and my degrees are Black.
So we created little things. This is one other one.
Your experience at Prairie View and University has helped me level up by knowing that I don't have to look far to experience Black excellence. My name is Sergeant Muhammad. My degree is Black.
Now, here is the really cool thing about that. Is I literally did not do anything but record him saying that on my phone. I put that into Quick, and Quick broke all of the things up. They created all of the transitions for me. They gave me all of the space to type in the words, all of those things. I literally did two things. I uploaded one video and I uploaded the My Degree is Black logo. That's it. And then Quick does it all for you, all of the transitions. It'll automatically color code based on the people and the images and the video and all of those things. And I'll show you one last one that was done with Quick that I think you would like. Actually, I can't get into that account. Dang it. Got a new phone, forgive me. It's from my old radio show. But anyway, so you're able to create all of those things. Those are 3 apps I use religiously. I am always on Canva. I religiously use Place It. It is the thing for me. I'll show you one last thing that we did, and this was all in Quick and why I'm such, and actually it's a piece of Quick, it's a part of Place It and a part of Canva. So kind of used all 3 of them. I'm gonna share my screen and show you one really quickly. So this is what my company, My Degree is Black. So I'm gonna end that now. But that intro, the image at the beginning of it, that placeholder was made from Canva, and I threw that in. And then when I told you you can take those Place It videos and you can duplicate them. So I took one and then I made that for one of the judges, and then I just duplicated that, changed the picture and the name, made it for the second judge, duplicated it, changed the picture and the name, made it for the third judge, right? And so it created its own thing. Don't have to do anything. Well, here was the cool piece about it. It actually had a second piece to it that was just kind of the logo and a picture. And so I took a picture of us all together and then the My Degree is Black logo, made the whole thing, and then just went into my phone on iMovie and cut the movie in half. And so now I have an intro and I have an outro video. It cost me all of 15 bucks. If I would have asked somebody to go do that for me, they would probably charge me 10 times that amount. And then to have to do it over and over again, I would be continuing to pay. And so I know that we are all small business owners at this point, growing to large businesses, right? And so as we would say it to anyone, you know, the first rule of business is not to run out of cash. And so we want to be really intentional about how we spend money. And so there's some things where you definitely need a graphic designer to create. And there's so many things that you can do on your own. And it's important that you start to play with those things because you start to have a real hands-on approach in building your own brand. So when you do go get stuff protected and you're fighting for your protection of things, you know your brand inside and out. You know your color red, versus McDonald's red versus Fire Engine red versus Candy Apple red. I know mine, right? And so being able to do that continues to add to the value that you're able to, if you use, that's a great question. So if you use these apps to create any content with our business info, can we copyright it for our business? The unique way in which you create it belongs to you. If you take a logo that has a person and a horse from Canva, change the words on it, and then say, hey, I want to trademark this. This is my logo. You might be a little difficult. You might have some issues there. You definitely want to talk with an attorney about that, right? So again, it depends on how much you change it, because you also have to realize that a lot of people are using these, right? So for my logos and things like that, I may take a bit of some staging in Canva, right? So back to Devon's point about taking the inspiration from something, but then making it your own, right? So I love the idea of the Martin theme. And so I created My Degree is Black. It's not quite Martin, but it's very reminiscent of it. And I can trademark that. That can belong to me, right? So I've taken the inspiration from that and I've done that. Does that make sense? So again, thank you all for your time. We will wrap up. You have been with us for almost 2 hours, and we greatly appreciate that. I'm gonna do some editing on this video. But thank you so much. We will make sure that all of this information is available to you, as well as the recording and all of those things. I have one ask of you. I am going to send you a link to a survey. This program and all of this great information doesn't come for free. People have to get paid. Devon has to get paid. That is coming through the generous partnership of Comcast. And for that, we have to report on the impact of things like this. So I'm going to send you all a survey. Please complete the survey, because if we don't get that data, we can't submit it to the partners, which means that we can't get funded for things like this again. Cool? Love y'all. Katrina, you have any final words?
I do not. Again, another wonderful presentation, and I'm so glad everyone was able to attend, and you're able to take something from here to just elevate what you're already doing. Thanks again, John, to you and EEDC and Devon.